Chaffee. I'm a ninth grade humanities teacher in Boston, Massachusetts, and I'm also the 2017 National Teacher of the Year. And like many of you, I have not seen my students face-to-face in months. And I miss them. I miss their greetings in the morning. I miss being able to actually see those aha moments that they have. I miss silly interruptions and flashes of brilliance and being able to check in with a kid who's having a bad day by just kneeling down next to their desk and asking them what's going on. I even miss the things that used to annoy me, like inappropriate jokes that I have to pretend aren't funny and random asides shouted out in the middle of lessons. And one of the kids that I miss is named James. That's not his actual name, but we're going to call him James. So when we were back at school, before we'd even heard of COVID-19, James was a master at hiding his Chromebook on his lap so he could watch football videos on YouTube. He has these sleepy eyes and a shy smile and a really weird sense of humor. When he finally got to know me, he would materialize next to me at the end of class and do really dead-on impressions of me and my co-teacher. And he was also pretty much totally disinterested in my class. He did enough to skate by with a passing grade, and then he tried to fly under the radar after that. So when our school shut down in the middle of March, I did not exactly think that James would be clamoring for online assignments. And actually, I was at a loss for exactly what I should do for kids like James, because what I started to realize was that there were a lot of aspects of my practice as a teacher that were rooted in an attempt to control students, rather than to engage them. So I thought about all the times when James had sat at his desk in our classroom, doing nothing, watching YouTube videos. And my response had been to say that I was going to call his dad, or that his grade was going to suffer. And these were threats that were meant to coerce him into compliance. When school shut down and James knew that because of the policy, he was going to pass my class no matter what was going to make him actually want to log on? I started to reflect on the idea that if all I had were carrots in that moment, I was going to have to rethink my reliance on sticks. So before the shutdown, I had created an ambitious plan for the last trimester of the year. I was so excited to teach it. And I realized that I had to completely scrap it. Well, hopefully that I had to save it for next year, but I had to throw it out for now. And so my co-teacher and I got together and we thought about what could we post online that would make kids want to get out of bed and engage with us, right? What could we post that would draw them in, that would pique their curiosity? And we decided that short stories were the thing. So we posted this one short story that I really love. It's called A Sound of Thunder. And if you haven't read it, it's really great. It's got all the things that you would want. It's got time travel and blood and guts and gore and regret and dinosaurs. And I posted a little video of myself telling kids why they should bother to read this story. And then I logged off and I waited and I hoped. And a few days later, I got James's response to the story in my inbox. So here's what he wrote. He said, "Usually I'm not into reading, but this story is probably one of the best stories I've read in school." Now, this is a kid who, for the whole entire year, told me that he hated to read, that he would just fake his way through independent reading time in class, that he just wasn't interested. And here he was writing multiple sentences about this story, about time travel and how he thought it was so interesting, about how he loved that the story connected to science. And so reading this response made my entire day. It wasn't a threat that got James to engage and reimagine himself as a reader. It was finding him the right story. And so in subsequent weeks, we posted more stories. The War of the Wall, The Treasure of Lemon Brown, Fish Cheeks. We invited students into conversation about the story's themes and asked them to think about how they resonated with them. And we didn't hit every standard that we had planned to hit, but there were students like James who seemed suddenly alive in class in a way that they had never been before March. They were engaged. But in order to get there, I had to let go of most of my super detailed, careful plans. I had to admit that I needed to do something differently to meet them where they were at this moment in time. So in April, I talked to some of my colleagues about this, and I was really excited. And I said to them, what if this shutdown is painful and as difficult as it is? What if we use this as an opportunity to rethink our practice? What if we re-envisioned what engagement looks like? And this other teacher, who I really respect, visibly scoffed at me. And she said, look, that all sounds really nice, but it's idealistic. It's not reality. In reality, kids don't always want to learn what we have to teach. And in reality, they're not always going to do work if there isn't a grade attached to it. And that was really hard to hear because I wanted an easy answer. But despite what that other teacher and I both wanted to believe, there are no easy answers in this moment, right? There's no easy way forward to figure out what we need to do to keep kids engaged, to do right by them. We're teaching in a context for which we could not possibly have prepared. We're fumbling our way along. We're trying to do right by kids. All at the same time, we are excited, creative, hopeful, overwhelmed, sad, angry, and anxious. I think that maybe our kids need us to sit with that and to be all of those things. Because our creativity and our hopefulness fuel us as we figure out how to make this work, how to teach them through screens and packets, how to connect with them through sidewalk chalk and car parades. And our sadness and our anger, those help us too. They help us to speak up and advocate for policies that won't further exacerbate harmful inequities across race and class. So no one knows what's going to happen in September. We would normally be headed back to school for another year, but we don't know if we'll go back to our classrooms or if we'll be teaching online. We don't know the true impact of these school closures on students' mastery of standards or their mental health. We're going to be launching a new school year during a global health crisis, a national reckoning with white supremacy, and the lead up to a presidential election. So the number of unknowns that we are facing is unnerving. But one thing we can be certain about is that our students need us to see ourselves as learners. We are not the same teachers we were a year ago. We have to accept this invitation to grow. So for me, the summer has always been a time of reflection. And this summer, as I plan for next year, I'm going to be asking myself a few key questions. First, how have my practices and my policies incentivized compliance rather than engagement? What does true engagement in my class look like? Second, where is there tension between the best way to do things and the most comfortable or convenient way to do things? And what do I do about that? And then the last and most important question is, how can I truly be more student-centered in my practice? So I'm approaching this coming school year with tentative optimism, because somewhere amid the anxiety and the messiness of teaching through this pandemic is an opportunity for me to recommit to being the kind of teacher my students deserve. One who is creative and flexible and student-centered. One who sees kids like James as partners, not problems. One who leans in to the messiness and the uncertainty. And so as hard as that work is, as painful as that work is, I hope that you'll join me in that work, because that's what needs to happen right now. That's what our kids need us to do. So thank you for listening. I hope you have a summer that helps you reflect, relax, rejuvenate, and then rethink. Thank you.